Good morning. It is 7:30 here on News 6 Plus. Welcome to Breakfast with Bridgett. I'm your host, Bridgett Ellison, and it is a happy Thursday, June 20th, 2024. First day of summer begins today, and, we're starting off with a little bit of rain for this Thursday. And speaking of rain, we're going to talk about flood prevention tips today. We have an expert standing by, and it is officially hurricane season. It's officially rainy season, so we'll get some tips on protecting your family and your property because, water is one of those forces that is very hard to control. And meteorologist Candace Campos is in the Pinpoint Weather Center with more on, the water in our forecast today, Candace.
Now, the good news is, compared to yesterday at this time, our rain isn't as widespread. So if you're trying to kind of get a feel for today, it will be drier than yesterday, even though we had a little bit of a lull in the afternoon. We are going to actually see some slightly drier conditions this afternoon before we'll get another kind of round of some tropical downpours in the forecast. Nothing severe, nothing concerning, just beneficial rain. And a plus, if we get all that rain throughout the overnights, that's like doubling our rain just because that's so beneficial to our aquifers. That's when the ground is even more of prone to absorbing a lot of that rain. So we're hoping to get some of that rain, though, overnight as well. So let's take it to the maps. This is what you need to know out the door info, Bridgett, okay? So we're watching this tropical low. It is technically an invest. It's called Invest 92. That basically means it's an area that the National Hurricane Center is going to be routinely investigating. With that being said, we do have now spaghetti models for this system. Even though we're not expecting anything significant, it will be approaching the Florida coast later on tonight and into tomorrow, bringing with it some scattered showers, some gusty winds, and certainly some rough waters out there. So you can see here on the radar, nothing extremely impressive, just some of those fast-moving showers kind of, soaking up our roadways just a little bit in some spots. But we are going to continue to see an increasing chance for rain in the forecast. So I'm kind of giving you a little zoom in that we were dealing with some scattered showers. Most of them have moved on shore and kind of fizzled out. So really that is about it. Let me widen out the view here. So we're talking about this one area just north of the Bahamas there. We are also tracking Tropical Storm Alberto that's making landfall over Mexico this morning. But really for us, our focus is going to be this system. It's basically, again, kind of that open wave, nothing very impressive you see here on the satellite and radar. There's nothing really closed and real organized. But because it is an invest, again, we're watching it closely with our spaghetti models here. Pretty good agreement that we're looking at a potential quote unquote landfall or moving onshore north of basically the Cape up through Jacksonville. That's basically that zone of moving onshore. So in the meantime, though, we'll have about a 30% chance of potential development. The water vapor imagery kind of really tells a story nicely of what we're going to be seeing today. We're going to be in that little sliver of dry air ahead of this tropical wave this afternoon. So because of that, rain chances are going to taper off like they already are. But then that little where you see those green arrows I drew, that's where we will start to bring in that rain into the forecast later on tonight. So here's your afternoon forecast. Again, partly to mostly cloudy skies, rain chances low at only about 20 to 30% because, again, that dry air will kind of take over for a few hours today. I do want to show you what happens once the sun goes down Thursday and we head into Friday morning by about midnight. You're going to start seeing that spiral starting to move a bit closer to our coastline, and that's going to be bringing in that moisture I was showing you with those arrows. Scattered showers, some tropical downpours can't be ruled out, but you can see the majority of it still staying to our north. This will all change if this tropical low moves onshore a little further south. That will kind of change up where the rain goes. So just overall, do expect a little better chance of rain overnight. And models are holding on to a few more scattered storms in the forecast into Friday afternoon. And then we'll taper them off overall throughout the overnight into early Saturday. And like you mentioned, Bridgett, today official start of summer at 4:51 this afternoon. Rain chances, though, until further notice, will stay elevated about 50 to 60%. So even though we're talking about a tropical wave coming through, this is not going to be a just complete soaker of a day, but it is certainly going to, keep the rain in the forecast, keep it a little gloomier than usual. But just to be aware, because of this tropical wave, Bridgett, it's roughing up our surf. It's not a perfect beach day anyway, weather-wise, but our waters are certainly going to be hazardous. We got a small craft advisory, high risk of rip currents, and that high surf advisory. So overall, just not a day to be out on the water. Conditions will be improving though as we head into your weekend. So, just kind of a little appetizer of the tropics, but nothing too concerning at this hour.
All right. And, we are going to talk about flood prevention coming up. And,
Hmm.
we've been talking about how My Safe Florida is going to take in applications for those free inspections. And
Yeah,
so there's still time to really get prepared and make sure you have your plans in place.
absolutely. I mean, and that's why it's good to kind of right now we're starting a very average part of the season. Normally we get our first name storm June 20th. We got one on June 19th. So at this point in time, it's been an average season. But as all of our models have been showing, all of our climatology showing that it is going to be an active year. So kind of getting on that ball and getting what you need to get done sooner rather than later.
Yes. Good advice. All right. Thanks, Candace. We'll see you
You're
soon.
welcome. All
All
right,
right.
bye.
Bye. All right, and we want to head out on those roads as well. And traffic safety expert Trooper Steve is in results one there. Good morning. Where you headed today?
Today is a unique one. We're talking about funeral processions.
Mm,
So, how to yield right of way, what the law says specifically about them. And, at the end of the day, a lot of people don't encounter them very often.
hmm
And when you do, kind of what the law says and what the respect that you should be showing to a
hmm
funeral procession. So we're going to do that at 8:30 at clickorlando.com News 6 Plus. And of course, our app. It'll be a nice discussion. We see them a lot. So we figured we'd talk about it today.
Yeah, that's good information to know because it's a little bit different, and depending on where you are, it can
Right.
vary. So, yeah, that's good info.
And we've seen our fair share of ways not to do funeral processions here in Central Florida. We've reported
hmm
on it several
hmm
times here, so not everyone is guilty of it. So we just want to give people what they should be seeing out on the roads, and of course what they should not be seeing. And I tell you what, Bridget, today, even though with the weather
hmm
and it being a normal weekday, a Thursday, the roads aren't too bad out there.
Oh,
I'm
that's
not going to
good
complain.
because we had some
We
wet
wrapped
roads
up
this
the
morning.
Yeah, and they're still wet. I'm out here right now in the parking lot, and there's still some ponding out here. It's probably still a little slick at the lights and stuff, but the map showing us pretty good right now. So we're seeing our routine kind of slowdowns settling in now, which is kind of late, 7:30, 7:40 in the morning, and it's still not that bad. Westbound I-4, we're not seeing the red. The delay icon just went away as we were sitting out there, as we're watching here on the map. So just make sure you're cautious out there. Increase your following distance. Currently, there are no crashes along that area. Altamont, Castleberry, Winter Springs, good morning to you. 1792, all clear, along with Maitland Boulevard and 436. These drive times are beautiful this morning. JYP, John Young Parkway, westbound at 27. Only ironically, 27-minute drive. 11 minutes from Lake Mary towards the Maitland area, which is where we like it. Some rain moving through Maitland right now, so just be cautious along Maitland Boulevard. Brief little slowdown by OBT, but this is something we see actually every day. And if not, it's bigger every day. Hunters Creek, good morning to you. West Osceola, attractions area, routine slowdowns, but no major slowdowns, not even as routinely as we normally see. And then Pleasant Hill, you're not backed up this morning. You're not going to hit that back up until just before the bridge at Oak Street there. Headed into Kissimmee. Bridget, we're in great shape. I-4 eastbound, 36 minutes, Kissimmee to downtown, 5 minutes there along John Young, so a little slowdown there. And then in the opposite direction to head downtown from Seminole to downtown Orlando, 20-minute drive. So we're still looking nice this morning. If you're getting ready to hit the road, like Candace and we've all been talking about, weather's iffy today. It's going to be the same thing over the next couple of days with this tropical weather out there. Just got to be on your P's and Q's and make sure you're paying attention.
That's for sure. Speaking of paying attention, we'll see you at 8:30 to hear more about those do's and don'ts with those processions.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
See you then. Thanks, Steve. And we want to talk about an insurance rate hike. It seems like insurance is just really going through the roof. And right now, Florida's insurer of last resort for property owners is talking about proposing a 13.5% rate hike, starting at 13.5% increases there. And so thousands of people have Citizens Insurance, and it is a tough time with this property insurance. And Ezzy Castro is breaking down the numbers to show us how it could impact your bottom line.
More than 1 million customers across Florida could soon see another increase in the rate of their insurance policies. Citizens Insurance approved a proposed 14% rate increase overall for its policies, though it's not official until the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation signs off. If it does, the hike will take effect starting in January. So, how much could this cost homeowners in our area? In Brevard County, the average rate could go up to 14% from around $2,800 to $3,200. In Orange County, a 13.6% rate hike would increase the average premium from $2,500 to just under $3,000. And in Volusia County, a 13.4% rate increase could go up to $300.
All right. So we'll keep you posted on that. Now, a really shocking story out of Seminole County. Our Catherine Silver has this one. Apparently last weekend at Lake Monroe, someone went swimming out there and they lost their arm. And Catherine talked to a fisherman who tried to warn this victim prior to this horrible incident happening, but she talked to that witness, and he says he tried to get the man out of the water before all that happened. But here is Catherine with more.
First, let me explain to you what wildlife officers have told us about what happened. They say a man was bitten by an alligator while he was swimming here in Lake Monroe. The injuries are serious. He lost part of his arm from the elbow down, but why he was in this lake in the first place is something they're still trying to figure out. You're John Lawson.
Yeah.
You were fishing and you said you saw a man while you were out in your boat?
Yeah, I was fishing down the bank. It was getting dark, and I seen something floating probably 500-600 feet away, and so I was on the phone with my wife, and I trolled on down, and I realized it was a guy because he was dipping under the water and coming back up and gasping.
You thought he might need help.
Yeah, I asked him if he was all right, startled him, and he said, yeah, no, I'm good. He mistook my navigation lights on my boat for spotlighting him, and he was getting upset with me.
So you called Sanford Police?
Yes.
And you both try to convince him to get out of the water?
And I was like, look, man, we're just trying to help you. You know, you're out here in the dark. Like, you're either going to get hit by a boat or eaten by a gator. He said he wasn't worried about gators.
You can see all the trees and weeds right by the edge here. Imagine what it looks like at night when it's pitch black. The alligator bit his arm right before 2 a.m. Lawson says he saw him from his boat close to where the zoo is. We spoke to people out on the lake Wednesday, and they told us how many alligators they typically see.
Probably about 11 to 12 every time I come out.
Researchers with FWC estimate there are more than 1,200 alligators in Lake Monroe. More than 1 million call Florida home. The number of attacks each year is less than 20.
Alligators are basically shy, non-aggressive animals, believe it or not.
Mike Heilman is the park director at Gatorland.
Right now it's nesting season. This is going to go all the way into September. So they will chase off or catch anything that comes around. That includes people. So we just need to be aware of our surroundings. We need to make sure we're staying clear of those high vegetated areas. And don't go swimming at 2 a.m. in a Florida lake.
We now have the initial report from FWC that says the man was found on the sidewalk by a Good Samaritan who called for help. He was taken to the hospital right here at Lake Monroe. In Seminole County, I'm Catherine Silver, getting results, News 6.
That is tough to think about. Wow. But hopefully he recovers, and, you know, we can bring you a follow-up on that, but definitely stay out of those waters. Now we want to talk more about water, but from the standpoint of flood prevention, and we have a specialist standing by with us this morning, TJ Kaplinger from United Water Restoration Group. Good morning.
Good morning, Bridget. How you doing?
It's good to have you with us. And, you know, we've been talking about the weather and, you know, hurricane season, rainy season. And so you guys at United Water Restoration, you specialize in sort of, I guess, helping people get things back to normal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, floods, hurricanes, all of that, but also pipe bursts. I mean, anything that comes along with some of the Florida weather that can damage property. yeah, we can certainly help mitigate and clean up the mess that happens.
And people in your industry are probably really working overtime in South Florida right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've mobilized some of our resources down there from Central Florida and Northern Florida down there, and we're also at the same time preparing our resources here for any storms that are going to come up during the summer.
And so, when it comes to prevention, we talked about the property insurance rate hike. Unfortunately, these types of weather conditions are part of what's really driving up these insurance costs around here.
That's true, but there are some things that you can do to mitigate. Especially if there's things that you can do to prevent having a claim. Maybe your rate won't go up as
Mm-hmm.
much as somebody else who's had a claim.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first steps to doing that is finding out if you're in a flood zone.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that by going to FEMA.gov and in the search bar, type in flood service map. And you can type in your address from there and see if you're in a flood zone or the flood zones that are around you.
And what about maybe even if you're in the market to buy a home, you're like, what do you think about trying to research if these properties are in floodplains or flood zones? What should we be wary of when we're, looking around for property?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're going to buy, I mean, that's key, because if you're going to buy a home in a flood zone, you need to know that, because you're going to be required to have separate flood insurance. Homeowners insurance doesn't cover flooding like that. You have to buy a
Mm-hmm.
separate flood insurance policy from the National Flood Insurance Program. And so you just know that if you're going to be in a flood zone, like a flood zone A, where you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
required to have flood insurance, that's going to add to your expenses. So you got to calculate that. So you may love the house, but you got to know that your insurance may be a little bit more, and you got to think about that in your budgeting.
Yeah. And so, like, even a few weeks ago, we had a neighborhood which there's been some construction nearby. And so now there's been some problems with drainage and things like that. So, how can people be prepared for unexpected flooding around their properties?
Yeah, so there's a number of different ways that you can do it. So I would say, from an insurance perspective, first, make sure before, like right now, but while we don't have any damage, no flooding, take pictures of your home, its current condition, and your contents, because that's going to be important when you need to file a claim if you do have some flood damage. Uh, so that it's just going to make the claims process a lot easier. You're not going to have to pull receipts, find anything else. You've got pictures from before the loss happened of exactly the condition of what your home and what contents that you have, so that it just makes the claims process go a lot smoother. But there are also some simple things that you can do right now to go ahead and protect your house. And some of that is look at your window seals, your door seals. Are they leaking? Can you see light through them right now? If so, get those fixed now. You can also buy, so, kind of at the last minute, when a flood is imminent, people go out and get sandbags, and that
Mm-hmm.
can be physically taxing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are heavy. That can be difficult, to do. There are some innovative products on the market right now. You can get them from Amazon, Lowe's, Home Depot, that are flood bags. Some of those you can fill with your own water. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can put those, I mean, they have different lengths of them that you can put in front of your front door, in front of your garage, where some of the water is likely to come into the house in a flood. But these are flood bags. Some of them you fill with your own water from your garden hose, and they can create a watertight seal to prevent flood waters from coming in. There are some other ones out there as well that are super lightweight, that expand automatically on with contact with water.
Oh,
So
wow.
you can just put them out there. So even if you don't have the strength to carry a sandbag or to move anything, there are things that are very lightweight that you can just put in front of your doorstep and in front of your garage, that will automatically inflate when they come in contact with water.
Now, when it comes to bagging those crevices, like the doors and windows and things like that, is it a question of, if I had had the sandbags there, then I wouldn't be dealing with this many inches of water, or I wouldn't have flooded at all, or does it vary in terms of
Yeah,
how well they work?
yeah. I mean, they work pretty well. I mean, depending, again, like with the flood bags that are not sandbags, like in the image that you're showing right now, those would prevent a lot of water from coming in several inches. If we get several feet of flooding from a hurricane, or you've got you're in a flood zone where rivers cresting, that may be very difficult. But if you're talking about floodwaters from just rainstorms and overflowing ditches, and we don't have time for proper drainage, those flood bags can prevent several inches of water from coming in. And the average flood loss is $25,000
Wow.
with just a couple of inches of water. So for very cheap with some of these inflatable bags that you can fill up with your own water or put there, you can protect yourselves quite significantly.
And we need to sort of look around the property and around, our roofs and gutters, the drains around our properties to make sure they're ready for big amounts of rain in short amounts of time.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing right now, we think about floodwaters rising and coming in from the garage and the door, but they can also come from above. And so right now, go check your roof. See, are you missing shingles? You have damaged shingles, because that's a source of water from above coming in to the house. And then that can come in from the first floor, from the second floor, from the roof, and go down to the first floor, even if there's no flood waters coming in from your garage or your door. And also clean your gutters now. If you haven't thought about it, if you've got trees that are around there, your gutters are filled with, a whole bunch of stuff, clean those out, because if those get backed up, then that's a source of water that's going to back up onto your roof. And that can be another source of ingress into the house.
Right, right. And so as far as the when you get into cleaning out gutters, that's also one of those things where you might want to be careful, like you said, because like sandbags can be taxing. Gutter cleaning can be dangerous too. So you have to know your limitations and maybe seek professional help as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of professional companies out there that will take care of that for you. And there's some other products too. If you do clean it, that you can cover the gutters with to help prevent future clogging. And so, there's lots of different products on the market for that. But yeah, if you're not capable of doing it, I wouldn't get on a ladder. If you're at least a little bit wary about that, definitely hire a professional company to come out there and clean those gutters for you.
And then when it comes to restoration, how do you know when it's a loss, like a total loss, versus what's like the extreme things that people would be surprised you can restore? Because sometimes we see these videos of flooding and it just looks so devastating.
So, it really depends on the products that you have down on there and the amount of flooding that has come in. One key thing, though, is anytime water has come into your house, I would call a restoration mitigation expert, because just because something looks dry, you're talking about tile, and we think, oh, tile's waterproof, but that water can seep through the grout underneath the tile, and it can stay there. It can get behind the walls of your drywall, of your paneling that's back there. And then you think, oh, I put some towels down, everything looks dry, I don't see anything wet. But in the meantime, it is wet, and it stays wet, because especially in our summer conditions that we're going to have lots of heat and humidity, those are prime breeding grounds for mold, prime conditions for breeding of mold. And so if you don't dry your things properly, and you think it's just dry, then what happens is a few months later, down the road, you've got a bigger problem that's not wetness, but now you've got a mold issue. And so then that can be even more devastating when you're having to take out lots of drywall, take out lots of materials that you wouldn't have had to done if you had some proper drying to begin with.
And what are some of those signs and symptoms with that? Because that's a serious health risk.
Yeah, it is. So, so if you start to see any microbial growth, any dark spots, mold can come in lots of different colors though. So it's not always just black. We hear about that, but if you start to see any growth, I would give us a call. But also some of the times what happens is that if you don't do the proper drying, the mold growth can start behind the wall, and it can be it can be a very, very large problem before you actually start to see the visible mold growth. By the time that you see the visible signs of it, it can actually be a much bigger problem. It can be in your HVAC systems already. It can be behind walls. And where we see a lot of it is behind cabinets. So some people will see just a little bit of a hint of mold behind their backsplash in their kitchen or in their bathroom. And then we come in and we take out a cabinet and it is just filled behind the cabinet.
Wow. Well, this is really important information to have. And so where can we go to get some more tips and information, TJ?
Yeah, you can go to our website at unitedrestorationgroup.com. And we've got some tips and things on there. And also FEMA.gov is an excellent resource for your flood maps and some tips and tricks for there as well.
All right. Very timely information. TJ Kaplinger from United Water Restoration Group. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right. Take care. So, yesterday we mentioned Juneteenth festivities, and we want to show you Crystal was out at the Orange County Juneteenth celebration serving as MC last night, a standing room crowd there, and it was Juneteenth progression from then to now through song and dance. So they had wonderful performances there last night, singing, dancing, storytelling. This was at the Orange County Multicultural Center, and Mayor Jerry Demings also there with Crystal helping co-hosts, and we just saw Treasure Roberts there shooting some video and getting the story there behind the scenes. So wonderful time there last night. Great to recap that. Also, we want to get you ready for WKMG hitting the road again. We're headed downtown next month, and we want to hear from you. What are the stories that you want told in 32801? What are the issues going on in 32801? Let us know. clickorlando.com/hitstheroad. That's going to do it for us this morning for breakfast, and Weatherwise is up next, followed by Trooper Steve on patrol, and I'll see you for News 6 at noon. Take care.